Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. Hi. Hello, Brian.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
That seemed to be fairly abrupt there.
It did. It cut me off. I
it.
don't know. It felt like the opening theme song. We just kind of jumped right in at the end. And
Here we
speaking
go.
of Brian, I'm ready to change up that opening. I think I need to have you record a different opening. I'm tired of hearing me give that opening.
Okay.
It's not the most exciting thing either. It really is not the enticing thing that I think we need to match the level of energy we bring to this show every week.
So what you're saying is that to increase the energy and excitement and entice people, I need to do it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that.
I think we should go ahead and just set the bar expectations super low at the beginning with that opening. And then if they're still willing to sit through it after that opening, then we probably have them for the whole duration.
Every show could start out with, "Wow, you're still here." Okay, if you're right here, let's get into it.
Let's do this then, I guess.
Welcome,
everybody. This is Brothers in Tech, and if you can't tell already, yes, we are brothers. I am Alan Jackson. This is Brian Jackson. We are brothers. We talk technology. This is about the only time we get together every week is just to talk technology. We don't really have a whole lot more in common, but we love talking tech. So we get together, we talk family technology, things for our home technology, personal use, maybe some personal productivity, anything that's involving technology, websites, gadgets, home automation,
services.
We get into it all.
Yep.
Services, yeah. We get into it all. Today, we're going to be, after we do a little catch up and some swapping some notes on a few things, later on, we are going to talk about streaming sports or how to watch sports online. And that may sound like a kind of a no-brainer topic, but honestly, there's been some interesting changes in how some different sports are being delivered or at least being offered through some different online services. So we want to kind of give a little rundown of the state of streaming sports these days. And we can give our own perspectives of kind of what we use for watching sports, why we do, and what are some different options you may want to consider. So we'll get to that in a little bit and talk about that a little bit later. But first off, Brian, how you doing? Everything going okay?
Do you really want to know? Like, is this therapy session?
Is it technology related? Is there anything
it
help
is.
With?
It is
really.
It is. Yeah. You can't help with it. However, I'd like to share some technology woes, if that's okay with you.
I'm normally the one bringing up the woes, and I never like starting the show on a down note, but I mean, maybe we can come out of something positive at the end of this. So
I hope so.
Show me what's going on, or tell me.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, for the first time in my life, I have officially lost my keys. And I mean, actually lost my keys. And this would be the key to my car.
Okay.
That is the only key to my car that I have. And I lost it at work, somewhere in between my office and my lab during last Friday. And my car is still there because I cannot get into my car. So why is this technology based? Because I've had to learn an awful lot in this last week about key fobs. Alan, does your car have a key fob, or does it have a physical key that has a chip on it?
Mine has a fob.
So it means if you have it in your pocket, you can push button start your car. Right. That's what mine is. Oh no. Do you have to put your key in?
It's a fob, but the fob, I have to be inside. There's a push button to start my car on the inside.
Yes.
But there's no physical key. So what you're asking?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's two different styles, right? There's the key that is chipped that has the fob on the key. You still have to put the key in, turn it, and that has a sensor in it that says, well, we're not going to let this start unless the chip is actually there to know that this is the real key, right? Then there's the one that you and I have, which is it's a fob that is in the pocket. I don't have to do anything with it. As long as I'm in the car, I can push button start.
Yeah.
So I have lost that. And That one has a what they call a valet key built into it. So if I needed to get manually in, it's built into the key fob, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I was not aware how ridiculously expensive those key fobs are. So if you go to the dealership, which of course you may say, ding, 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 that's the bad step right there. But if you go to the dealership to get a new key fob, and they need to reprogram your car so the old fob doesn't work. So there's a really important piece here, right? I think there are places that can program a new fob for you based on your current car's codes.
Okay.
And so that's great. If let's say I drop my key in the wood chipper and I know someone else can use it, right? Maybe I can just go and get a fob that gets recoded to my car's signal.
Okay.
That's the case. Well, that's great, right? You can do that. But if you you can actually reprogram, which means the car is going to be sending out a different signal and connecting, which means if I reprogram this new one, the old one, if it's ever found, will not work. And that's, of course, what I want. If I haven't found it, then I want the old one not to work so that they can't just walk around the campus and get my car.
That makes sense.
However, I am waiting. That's why I've been waiting a week, because if it does show up and I had to spend a lot of money and now the old key doesn't work, I would rather it show up and me know, okay, I got it. I don't have to get this redone. So I'm giving it enough time to do that, right?
So you're saying instead of spending a large sum of money to have it all reprogrammed, which would satisfy the security side, it would mean the other one would be invalid. You're hoping the old one turns up.
If it shows up, right, then now all of a sudden even if I got the new one that was programmed to the same code and everything, then now I have two keys, which I probably need, knowing that I just lost one, right? Yeah. Okay, so for one, it's stupidly expensive. I think the quote I got was $600 for a new key fob that is programmed and has the new valet key. But there's also different pieces here, right? Everybody needs to be aware if this happens to you. And if you're someone like me, who I bought a used car years ago, it only came with one key fob. And I figured, well, why am I going to spend money to buy a new key fob, right? It's a used car. And now I realize why maybe I should have had two keys or maybe done that early on. However, there are ways. So if you call your dealership and say, do I have to come to you in order to get a new key? They will most likely say yes. That's what they told me. But then after doing my research, I realized that you can go to a locksmith. The locksmith can purchase, I can even see them on Amazon. They can purchase the exact key fob that you had before, the dealer key fob, the original equipment. And then they can reprogram. They can come to you and reprogram for probably about half the price. What I'm still trying to figure out is whether or not, and I'm actually in this process right now, whether or not them reprogramming means that the old key still works, or whether that means that it invalidates the old key. So I'm trying to find that out. Now, that's one technology piece where I just want people to realize that that does cost a lot. So if you are someone who has a car that has some decent value to you, and you don't take any other precautions in order to save your keys, then you may want to think about putting some, at least getting another valet key, maybe another backup valet key, where you can at least get into the door, get something out, that sort of thing, right?
So can I compound onto this with my situation as well? Basically.
Well, of course, it's all about you. So go ahead. Yeah.
Well, you've been talking for a really long time, and I'd kind of like to talk about me for a minute.
Okay, that's what I figured. Go ahead.
I won't take as long as you did. I promise. My car right now has an issue. I do have two key fobs for it to run it, but it started in the last few weeks where the key fob, the car does not respond to the key fob. And I assumed, well, battery is going dead on the key fob. So go get another battery. I swapped it out. It worked great for a couple of days with no problem. Then it started losing again. So where I could sit here and click unlock, and I would do it 20 times and it still is not unlocking the car. Went to the other key fob that I had as my backup key fob, and it would work for a couple of days. And then it started having the same problem. So it's not the fob. It is obviously some sort of sensor issue at the car. That's not relaying a signal from the key fob. Now, I do have the little pop-out valet key in that key fob, so I can always unlock the door. Granted, if I've locked it with my key fob, but now I'm having to use the key to unlock it. It does set off the alarm, and I have to immediately get in and press the button to disable it. My problem is, and that's fine, I can get in the car, but sometimes the start engine will not respond because just like it doesn't respond to the unlocking doors or anything else. So I can sit here and press that button over and over again. It keeps saying key fob not present, even though I've got 2 key fobs sitting there right next to me, both with fresh batteries. So that isn't an issue. I was in a parking lot the other day for probably a good 10 minutes sitting in my car, just trying to get
waiting to see if it would recognize you were there.
Yeah. Yeah. It eventually did, but it does take some time. So I'm
so yours could be a potentially much bigger issue.
Yeah.
Right. Of the proximity sensor that's in the car.
Yes.
Right.
So
and you haven't had any battery issues, have you? Like battery of the car?
No.
Because it seems like that could also be something. If the car battery starts to run low, then it's not going to do some of the
battery
extras,
issues,
right?
no other signals there. So anyway, so I got some similar car fob related issues, but just different. Yours is just gone. You just lost it.
It's gone. It's gone. Now here's the other tech part of this. On that keychain, I had a tile, the tile tracker, right? So I have a tracker on the key fob, on the key itself. So of course, at the end of the day, I went and looked and oh, wait a minute, I've got a tracker on there. Let me check and see when I figured out I couldn't find it. And it said that the last that it saw it was about the time I was walking across campus, but it showed me on the map. It said, we saw it right here, which was dead in the middle, the center of one of the dorms. Now I walked by that dorm. I don't walk in that dorm. I don't go into that area of that dorm. So what I don't know is how close the proximity of that tile is. Now, they show me a map, and then they show on the map the circle around your key, kind of giving you an idea like, okay, this is generally where it is. But that circle is really, really small in the middle of this dorm. So, and it happened to be probably 3 minutes after I would have walked past it, because I actually remember having a meeting at 12:45 that I was walking across campus for. So it's at 12:44, we saw it in the middle of this dorm. And that's the last we saw it. It says the battery is too low or there's no more connection to it. We'll let you know when we get it. Now, I can't remember the last time I updated that battery. I can't remember. It could be very, very old. But the fact that it did ping at that moment means it had at least something, right, in that round. So my question is, did someone grab it, go into the dorm, and that's it? And if that's the case, well, what's the benefit? Maybe to steal the car? Well, the car is still there, and it's been 5 or 6 days or 5 days since then. And it wouldn't be that hard on a small campus to just walk around and try to figure out what's opening, right? Or
So
is the tile tracker really just not that accurate?
It's off geographically.
Right.
Meaning
and
it's
just showing me
there.
walking by. It just shows me walking by, and then potentially not being the case. So that's been kind of an interesting tech dilemma.
We got a little mystery going on here. So I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to get resolved. I mean, I'm wondering if the tile tracker was off geographically, but it's in the general neighborhood of where it did register its last ping. And you got to assume if it had moved to another location with you, it would have pinged somewhere else.
Ping something else.
So the fact that it's still pinging as that spot makes me think it's
well, and like I say, it's not pinging. It's not pinging at that spot. It is saying the last time we saw it was Friday at 12:44. Yeah. So it's basically saying we haven't pinged since then.
Right. But I mean, wouldn't that mean that maybe it's possibly it hasn't moved from that location?
It's possible. Well, it's possible, except I did put on there notify when found. So it's saying it cannot find it right now.
Yeah.
It cannot find it. The last time we saw it was there. So that means either the battery is no longer good, and that was just its last hurrah, and the battery's gone, or it means someone took the battery out of the tracker, right? Which would make sense too. If someone wanted to actually take the keys, they would take the battery out of the tracker, or that it said last ping there, and then it actually is somewhere completely different, and it was just off on its. So I thought I'd bring that up, Alan, because probably a year ago I told myself, you know what, it's time to move on from the tile and get probably an AirTag. And I just wanted people that aren't sure about these trackers, just want to remind you, we did talk about it before, but the tile tracker is can only be seen if other people have a tile
Yeah.
or a tile
Very good
app,
point. Mhm.
right? So technically, I have my car that's still at work. I actually went in through another tile. I had a had a wallet tile, like a credit card looking tile. I
Mhm.
had one at my desk, so I went in and threw it inside the hood because that's all I could get into, and I put it there just to see, like, if my car moves, at least maybe I'll have a chance, right? And
Sure.
every so often, I get a little ping that says, "Hey, we found your wallet."
Mhm.
Well, it just shows it in the same place. That just means someone probably walked by my car that had a tile app,
Yeah.
and
And
therefore it
cause it to
pings
kind
that.
of register a ping.
And just keep in
Very
mind
interesting.
that compared to air tags are going to be anybody that has an iPhone. As you
Which
can
is a
tell,
much
lots of
bigger
people that would
it's a
actually
much bigger
connect that.
pool of
Yeah,
people for sure. So yeah, AirTags definitely have tapped into something better on this trackable wearable device thing than I
yeah,
think Tile was able to ever to compete with.
for sure. They just have the
Shane Flint,
scale.
Shane Flint was just commenting, which I completely agree on this. He has an app on his phone to unlock and lock his truck and start it as well. He also has a key fob, but manufacturers that are allowing apps to also do that start. My wife has a vehicle that an app can allow you to do that. Look, believe me, if that could happen sooner with all manufacturers and a car or even a retrofit way to do it, I am much more in favor of that. I do feel like the fob is probably going by the wayside, just like I think the house key at some point is going by the wayside. I mean, with people just being able to scan or biometrics or
Yep.
anything like that to get into your house or home, cars are going to be the same way. I carry my phone everywhere I go. I will know if my phone is not on my person pretty quickly and pretty easily. So I don't
Yep.
have any qualms
Yep.
about a car key being digitally loaded on an app for me to
Yeah, I
use
don't
instead
either.
of carrying physical keys around. Yeah.
No. I mean, if you're not concerned about if you if you're concerned about someone getting into your phone to get to your bank account, to get to your Venmo app, to get all these things, the same security, right? If you care about that, then it's the same thing as having that
Yeah.
same security on your car. I would like to say thank you, Shane, for bringing that up, and thanks for rubbing it in that I don't have the ability to use my phone
Uh,
for
uh,
that. So thanks,
that's
thanks
what
a
it was
lot.
meant. That's what it was
Insult
designed to
to
do.
injury,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh, now, and I do wish there was some way to kind of you know I mean, I assume you can retrofit that, right? Just like you can retrofit maybe
Mhm.
a remote start or something. You could probably
Yeah. There
retrofit
are some
a phone.
there are some remote start type of devices or just interfacing with your ignition that can work with some dedicated apps. It's
Yep.
installing some of the other equipment to do that. But the
Hmm.
best bet is obviously if the manufacturer rolls that out as an option, take
Yep.
advantage of it for sure.
Yeah. And don't lose your
Um,
key. Hmm.
and don't lose your key. Well, look, keep us
Yeah.
posted on that, Brian. I think all of us are all we're thinking about you. We're
Yeah.
wishing the best on this.
Thoughts and
Hope you
prayers.
find it.
Thoughts and
Thoughts and
prayers. I can
prayers.
feel it. I can feel it.
Just
Thanks.
once you find your car, I mean, I'd hate for you to have to bum a ride with your wife everywhere you go now. So,
No. No. All right.
man,
Well, okay. Let's move on
look at
to
the
a
news.
brighter
Yeah,
topic.
let's go to something a little more fun. Let's get into our main topic. We're talking about sports and the idea of how to best watch sports nowadays. And the reason we bring this up is we talk about streaming services and streaming channels quite often because that's a pretty interesting topic of discussion when it comes to home technology. That's a changing landscape that we want to stay
Hmm.
on top of. Sports being a subset of that. Not everybody is a avid sports watcher, so it may not apply to everybody that's listening. But those of you that do enjoy watching sports, whether casual or a much more intense viewer of sports, just needing to know that there are some changes that have evolved in how sports are being offered, who's offering sports, kind of some surprising partners now offering sports on their services. And just as a sports user, what kind of makes the best sense for watching the sports you want to watch? So, Brian, last time we talked about streaming services, well, we talked about the more traditional TV live applications or services you could
Right.
tap into, kind of that middle ground between I've still got cable running to my TV and I'm paying a cable subscription and I'm getting my TV from cable. Between that and the going all into just pure streaming services, I'm just going to pay for these services I want for on-demand content. There are these television network channels that look a lot like cable, but they're all delivered over the internet. That's really the only big difference. It's still this combination of channels available to you. You can see them in a live format, or you can record them. And that is still a primary way that right now a lot of people are watching sports. I mean, that's
Right.
speaks to you and I, right, Brian? I mean, as far as kind of how we still
Sure.
consume most of our sports right now.
Yeah. I mean, all of my sports at this point in time are coming through YouTube TV, which is the cable-like streaming service, and that then provides access to other things like ESPN, the ESPN streaming. But that's still my go-to, and provides me. It seems to have provided me plenty of sports. Given the type of sports enthusiast I am, which really is, I like several different types of sports, but I'm not heavily deep in any of them. So I don't necessarily need to see all of anything, but I do need to be able to see enough of the things that I like. So for me, this has been a great move. But as I said, the difference is I'm not heavy into NFL, for example, to where I feel like I actually want to watch lots of NFL games. I may want to watch just our local team, and that's it. And that tends to be coming on, local
Yeah.
networks.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I know both are ACC basketball fans. YouTube TV has ACC Network, which has provided me with most of the games that I want to watch. So that's still been it's still been great. Now I am interested in where things are going beyond
Mm-hmm.
this. So I know we're going to talk a little bit more about some
Well,
examples here.
and like you were describing, Brian, I mean, and this is the closest to the traditional cable set-top box or satellite TV that people used to, or some people still use, but that we all kind of have been used to for the last couple of decades. This idea of, you've got all these channels, they're available to you. You can choose to record different events, or I know with YouTube TV, for example, I know with other services as well, you can choose kind of your favorite teams that you want to subscribe to and say, anytime this team is playing a game, I want you to go ahead and record it on the live TV schedule so I can
That's
watch it
probably one
anytime
of
I want
the
to.
greatest features
Yeah,
in
it's great.
a sport type app. Yep.
Yeah. I've got, North Carolina Tar Heels. Anytime they play basketball, I'll go ahead and just record it. And sure enough, if I walk in the middle of a game, I know it's recorded. I can actually rewind and go back and watch it at my own pace. It's great. Now, granted, YouTube TV, Sling TV does some of the similar things.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one I'm thinking of?
Was it
Hulu,
Hulu?
Hulu
Does,
Live
yeah,
TV.
Hulu Live. Mm-hmm.
They all work the same way. The difference between those services is just like it would be with a cable provider. It's what channels do they carry.
Right.
That's the
Right.
deciding factor if you're going to go with a more traditional live TV setup. You've got many different sports you want to watch, or you want to kind of dabble in different ones. These are your best bets. Now, cost wise, I know we've talked about some of the pricing on these before. YouTube TV, I think, is close to $70 a month right now.
That's 65,
65
maybe.
or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, in just looking at the pure assortment of channels, I do believe, I think I'm speaking in turn on this, it's got the biggest variety of sports channels included in the package compared to some of the others. You've got ESPN, you got your Fox Sports, NBA TV, MLB TV, ACC Network, Big Ten Network, ESPNU, and so on. It's a pretty good assortment, and it covers most sports needs.
I think Sling is similar. I would say Sling is similar in terms of sports, but I think that there's quite a few other non-sports that YouTube provides a little bit more of, which may kind of offset the maybe $10 difference a month, something like that.
Little better bang for your buck for that $10 more, because YouTube TV is $65. Sling TV is $55 a month.
Yeah, at least for a particular level.
You got to get the orange and blue package if you really want the sports assessment or assortment of channels to work with.
Yeah.
Hulu with the live TV component, if you add live TV to your Hulu, is $70 a month. That includes ESPN Plus, which keep that in mind that, if it's ESPN Plus, I know a lot of people ask about, well, what is that? And I think, unfortunately, ESPN, I think, has got a little bit of a tough sell on. I'm trying to think if I can do the ESPN Plus, show what that is. So ESPN Plus, it's a little bit of a misnomer. It does have sports. It does have some live sports, has some other content. It's not all the live sports that ESPN offers. So
Right.
you can get an ESPN Plus subscription for $10 a month, but that is not going to include everything that's on the ESPN channel. There's some
Yeah, so it really is
there's
kind of
hockey
the plus. It's
games.
the extra. It's
Yeah,
like ESPN Extra, right? Is what it is.
yeah,
It's the extra stuff that that does provide you a lot of those channel or a lot of those games, but no, it's not providing you the same thing as the main ESPN suite of
yeah.
channels.
So don't get confused by that, thinking that if you can just go to ESPN and sign up for their ESPN Plus and get all of their ESPN
Right.
content. They don't work
Right.
that way. You do have to have a quote cable subscription, for lack of a better term, either through your cable provider, or if you're going online with YouTube TV,
Mm-hmm.
Hulu, or
Hulu.
Sling, you
Yep.
have to authenticate with that subscription to tell ESPN, hey, I've got access to this channel. And then you can use the ESPN app to actually watch any of the sports that are live and ongoing that would have
Yep.
been provided on your channels. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's a little confusing. It's
It
a little
is.
tricky. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you can add on ESPN Plus for $10 a month as its own service. If there's some things on there, they have some select basketball conferences on there. They've got some
Mm-hmm.
NHL games on there. They have some of their original shows that they program. And you can do it standalone $10 a month, or you can sign up for it with a Disney Plus Hulu bundle and get ESPN Plus plus Disney Plus plus Hulu.
Yep. And just to clarify, Alan, since you said the ESPN Plus is kind of like ESPN3 used to be, right? It used to be ESPN3 was like, hey, we have 1 and 2 on. They're actually on the networks, and then Go 3 is the online, is the digital. You can access it there. When you said Hulu plus live TV, that whole bundle, it gives you ESPN Plus beyond ESPN and ESPN2, which are already part of the live. So the idea is,
this gets so
if
confusing.
you're doing the cable style, which YouTube TV, Hulu, Hulu Live, Sling, those are the cable style, which means you're accessing regular ESPN, ESPN2, maybe ESPNU, those ones that are typically cable offered. If you go the plus, then you're opening yourself up to even more games, but they are the extra games right beyond that. So
yeah, good point on that. So let me either make it more confusing or try to help with confusion another way. A lot of people I've seen, because I've answered questions on this with people, they see this whole Disney bundle. It's like, oh, I get Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN, and it's $17 a month or something like that. And very disappointed once they sign up and realize that the ESPN is not full ESPN. It is just ESPN Plus. So again, big distinction. If you want the ESPN and you want all the ESPN traditional channels that have live sports that would be on ESPN, ESPN2, or ESPNU, you have to have an ESPN subscription service, which is in one of these cable offerings or one of these package offering live TV groupings.
Yep.
Okay, that's really annoying, but it is what it is. Now, Brian, so all those services are great if you are someone who is wanting to have all the possible sports that is traditionally on TV available to you.
Right.
But we start to talk about getting deeper into sports. If there's a particular sport that you're really more of a huge fan of, you want to kind of consume every possible game you can on a certain sport. Different providers, different companies are starting to get into this game and are making deals with these sport leagues and associations to be their kind of exclusive carrier of their content and putting them out as its own package to people. So a few of these, a couple of them are going to be a little surprising, I think, to names of people that would not expect to be in the sports game right now. But let me go ahead and show first one up that we're talking about. And this is Apple. So Apple TV, we're familiar with that service. We've talked about it before. Apple's TV, their
TV
television. Yeah, Apple TV Plus is their streaming content that you pay $4.99 or
Yeah,
$5.99.
$5.99, something like that.
Okay, somewhere in that
Yep.
neighborhood. And you get access to all of their Apple TV Plus content, which I have here. And you can see tons of stuff they have. Now, they have gotten into sports in the last season or so. They started with a little bit, I want to say, experimenting with baseball.
Baseball.
They got into the Major League Baseball carrying the Friday night games. If I had to find it on their Apple TV app, you have to scroll way far down.
Well, it was always it was way at the top too. You just passed it way at the top.
That was only
Great.
because I had already
Oh,
queued up
I
one of the
gotcha.
games that
Okay.
showed me that
I
that
got
was
you.
one I've already
Right
watched. Here
there.
it is. Major League Baseball, Friday night baseball from this past season that they were carrying those games. So if you do go in and view, they, in your $5.99 a month subscription, you have access to, or at least the 2022 season of Friday night baseball games on Major League Baseball. You can go and watch the games, any of the recorded games on replay. If the games were happening live, could be watching it live while those were playing. And then they have a lot of additional content to go along with it, just kind of some supplemental material about the season and so forth. So that was kind of their dabbling into sports a little bit. I've watched some of their Major League Baseball broadcasts, Brian, and I mean it's very Apple-y. They look great. The video quality is great. Even the on-screen graphics and scorekeeping and notes.
The fonts look good. They think,
absolutely looks beautiful.
Yep.
But what I have heard from people, I'm not a baseball connoisseur, so I can't attest to it, is that the quality of the commentators are maybe not where people wanted them to be. Some of the level of analysis that you hear during the game is not quite what you would get on a more traditional network. But, I kind of equate it to as the first season they were doing this. And I'm sure that's some things that can be worked on if they're going to continue offering baseball.
Yeah, but let me jump in there because I think it's unfair to maybe say it's because it's the first season. I think there's more to it than that. I think it's because it's the first season, they didn't have the pick of great announcers. I think that's one of the keys, right? Is that because Apple jumped in the game and said, listen, we're doing Friday night games and that's it. They don't have all of MLB. MLB still has lots of networks that are able to display their games on local networks and local announcers and all that. So if you think about it, the trick is that Apple was trying to do it at a national level, at a low national level, meaning they're just dipping their toes into it. So they just didn't have access. And something like sports announcers, there really is, a strong art to it. There's also the announcers that local people get used to, things like baseball, football, typically a lot of the announcers are either well-known because there's a handful of former players that get, to do it, like Troy Aikman does it in NFL, right? The same thing, but in baseball, I think you get a lot of more of the local. You get people that are like, I am a Reds fan, and I like to listen to my Reds announcer, and that wasn't happening here, right? You are watching it nationally, and it is being broadcast on streaming for a national. You're not watching the local version of it. So I think that a lot of people were kind of going, well, this is like watching it's the difference of watching so I'm a Seahawk fan, of Seattle Seahawks. It's the difference of me watching a Seahawk game out here that's on the network as opposed to when it's national on Monday Night Football. And at that point, the announcers are not the ones I'm used to. However, the benefit is they are the tops of their game announcers, right? Those are the ones that NFL bought into. So I kind of feel like one of the challenges that Apple had here was just that they didn't own everything. So they couldn't go out and get the best. And the best of the best. They couldn't go out and get local, even though I think you and I are going to talk about it. I believe that's where they're going. That's the beauty of streaming, is that they have the ability when digital streams are going out, to be able to offer lots of different things. And, one of the things I'm hopeful will happen will be the change of sports going to the streaming model would be that there'd be a lot of enhancements to that game, additional stats that can be offered. Alan, you pop on and you watch, let's say Carolina Panthers are playing Seattle Seahawks. the exact same video could be there, but you could choose you want to hear the Carolina announcers, and I could choose that I want to hear Seattle announcers, and we're both watching the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it
that
would be
nice.
fantastic, right? The ability to
Mhm.
switch back and forth, the ability to hear maybe a third type of announcer that has no connection to either one of them. And you have that option. But of course, that takes a lot of money, right? That takes a lot of money for Apple to go and say, we're going to create 3 streams of the same thing or 4
Yeah.
streams of the same thing.
Well, I mean, and Apple doesn't have that much money.
Oh, yeah. Well, they obviously didn't think that it was necessary just for Friday
Yeah.
night baseball, right?
Right.
And I think that that's kind of the entry point. So
Well, I mean, I think there's interesting possibilities. Apple's not a company that, you asked me this 5 years ago. I would thought getting into sports, that just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see the fit.
yeah,
But I think they're trying to tap into a market that is a complementary market to their Apple TV Plus offerings in general, trying to be more well-rounded with the kinds of the entertainment options and sports.
yep,
Look, sports are draws. Sports do have a big audience, big crowds. So Friday night baseball was kind of their entree into that. But now their big thing is Major League Soccer. So
Yeah,
big that even
MLS.
if you go on the Apple TV app on your computer, MLS is its own tab up here at the top, ready to go. So Major League Soccer, this is their big offering. The catch is you still have to pay a subscription to get it. They have it as a monthly subscription, or you can go ahead and pay for the whole season. It's $79 for the season, or you can do $13 a month as you go. But as you can see from here, they are going to be carrying every match.
Every
going on.
match.
I mean, you see these are all ones. Saturday at 4:25, Saturday at 6:55, Saturday 6:55, Saturday 6:55, so on. They're going to be carrying everything, and
Yep,
you'd be able to
every
pick and
game.
choose and flip around between all the different games and matches you want, as well as you can follow by clubs.
Mhm.
And they have, of course, all their supplemental material about the league as well, and some other films.
And I'm assuming,
highlights.
Alan, that you can watch them after the fact too. So this, you could go back and say, "Oh, I missed last night's game." You can watch that. So really, this is going to be the only portal that someone has for MLS soccer. The only other way I think that soccer may be displayed, and I could be wrong on this, would be local affiliates that might be playing a game. But other than that, this is the place. This is the service. So
Yeah, I gotta
Apple
imagine.
bid on it and went on it.
I've got to imagine past games in the past are going to
Yep.
be available for the whole
Yep.
season. It's just like a television series. Yes, you'll be able to watch it when the new episode comes out or go live with the game, but it's available for you to watch backwards in time as well. Like I mentioned, they give this overall season pass. There was no season pass involved with the baseball, Friday night baseball. That was
Right.
just anybody who's got an Apple TV Plus subscription got it. With this, you have to have the Apple TV Plus subscription, but then you also have to add the season pass on top of that. And again, it's you don't see the pop-up box here, but yeah, $13 a month or $79 for the whole season. And the season does include the playoffs as well. They're clear to mention on that. So it's interesting. Look, I love the presentation. I love the way it's kind of here on this same Apple TV kind of experience that we're used to. I love the idea of being able to see all the matches kind of queued up like this and knowing how easy it is to get to the live matches. So if I were a soccer fan, this would be big for me. I would be very happy with it. Really kind of curious to see how it shapes up as the season goes along. Again, this will be fairly new for them. So we'll have to see how it goes.
Well, and here's the thing, and I think we need to spend a few minutes talking about this. That the benefits of a streaming sports service. I had this discussion with someone that was like, "Oh gosh, I can't believe they're privatizing this and taking it away from what normally we got on cable. We always were able to see it. Now we're going to have to go pay for these things." And my comeback to that is I agree, right? It's wonderful if you're not a huge sport fan, maybe just to be able to turn on the TV and know that there are some sports that you want to stumble by rather than having to commit to, actually having access to a service. But just realize sports is the ideal environment to have as a streaming service, if you really think about it, because sports involves so much more than just here's the content, please consume it, right? There are stats, there are additional commentary, there are different angles that you could be watching the sport. The only way that those things happen is on a streaming service. I mean, right now, ESPN started doing on the national championship game. They had, the they had ESPN doing one angle. They had another ESPN doing an end zone angle, right? But those were different channels, right?
You said to
Imagine
flip to
in
different
one
channels to do it.
service,
Yeah.
you just kind of you change what it is you want to do. I want to turn that sound on, and I want to make this angle. I want to do this. I want the stats coming up in the bottom right constantly. I only want the stats for one team. I mean, these are things that can happen on a digital platform that cannot happen on a one-way cable platform.
More linear delivery.
Yeah. So I think it's an ideal situation for it. Now I will say I'm a little disappointed. I heard that MLS on Apple is going to be 1080p only. They're not doing 4K streams. But I think again, first season, that's a lot of equipment that has to go out to all of these stadiums in order to truly be sure that 4K is going to be coming through. But I would imagine that's short-lived, right? That's going to happen. Apple's not going to go into this if they can't create the best quality stream, right? That would kind of that would derail their experiment. But Apple, I think, is doing this is the model that other areas are either trying to emulate or they've already started. Because if you think about it, just as you said, they did baseball beginning just to play around, right? That was their way of dipping a toe and saying, hey, by the way, we can do sports. We're not going to make you pay for it because we haven't proven we can do it yet. But we gave you enough. We gave it to you for free. We gave it to you at a very little expense for you on having our subscription. Now we're going to do it to where you can actually jump in, but we're going to do it with a probably a lesser, certainly one of the lesser sports in the U.S. MLS growing for sure, but I mean it's not one of the big boys, right? And then we're going to say, here's our playing ground, right? We're going to show you, we're going to flex our muscle a little bit. We're going to show you what we can do. And then my guess would be next year, the year after, they're going to make one of those big plays for a big league. Once they've proven that streaming is the way to go for sports and you can get so much more, wait to see them jump into NBA and try to, take on an NBA league, or several teams, one conference, something like that. So
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited of seeing all of these streaming services, even though I don't like the fact of paying for them a la carte. Because that's not the way I consume. I'm not so into one sport that I want to have a full season pass of one. But for sports fans, I think this is a good, exciting direction.
Well, I will go ahead and note just before we move on to other services. I personally am curious. I'm not a soccer fan, but I am curious to see how the broadcast and how the whole format goes. It's worth noting that they are saying that opening weekend is free.
Oh, cool.
So
they want to get people seeing it. Yeah.
This coming weekend is opening weekend as we're recording this date. So all these games I'm scanning through right now, you can actually watch for free this coming weekend. So I am going to be curious to kind of pop in there and see what that experience is like and how they do with the production quality and is there anything innovative in the coverage of the game or match that we're not used to or not seen before. So that is Apple. Look, we've admitted we are Apple fans. We like Apple products for the most part. So there's nothing, it's pretty clear to say that I think we're kind of keen on what Apple's doing with their sports broadcasts. We just need to watch and
we're optimistic about that, I think.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. Now, there are other services doing very, very similar types of packages, just like Apple's doing. Let me bring up one that is a name I think most people are pretty familiar with, but may not realize that they're in the sports game, and that is where is it? Yeah, here we go. It's Amazon. So Amazon.
I'm sorry. What is it? Amazon.
Amazon. It is a place, a little known shop online for purchasing things. I think they sell books. I think that's their whole thing is books. Amazon Prime, if you are a Prime subscriber, which a lot of people are, they have a Prime membership for free shipping, on a lot of Amazon products. You also get the Prime Video subscription with all their Prime Video offerings. They do have, it's a little hard to find sometimes. I mean, if I go to Amazon Prime Video, I have to do a lot of hunting around to try to find out where their sports is. And finally I figured out you have to go down to your categories. And then there's a sports button there. But if you go to sports, you do get a sense of everything that's offered on Prime Video. Now, I'll go ahead and say some sports they provide for free, but it's not your big sports. It's
No.
going to be some little more niche sports. You've got, looks like it's some kickboxing going on. It looks like it's some
What do
basketball,
you
some different league
what are you saying?
basketball.
The overtime elite basketball league is not, not the
Hey, I'm
national,
not,
break in, or what?
Brian,
What
that
are we
may be
talking?
the most entertaining basketball I've ever
It could
seen.
be.
I'm just saying,
Could be.
I've not heard of it, I guess is what. I'm not commenting on the quality of the sportsmanship or the quality of the athletics.
Yep.
I'm commenting on the fact that I've not heard of this. And that's it. So um, they do offer these, as you can see, they got the little blue logo on them. I mean, these are included with your Prime membership and you
Yep.
can watch those. And they are live events, just like sporting events would be. The difference is that there's also all of these packages that you could then add on and get a higher level of involvement. So let's go ahead and take a look at NFL. If I go to the NFL, you see Thursday Night Football is available on Prime Video. So the Thursday Night Football game, you were able to watch this season on Prime Video live as it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some other NFL related content, but that was really the only game they had was the Thursday Night Football they broadcast every week. But then if I can go back and look at some others, let's see here. The NBA League Pass.
NBA. Mm-hmm.
It's a big one for them. Then you start to see the dollar signs popping up
Right.
next to the names. That means that these are available either rental or with a subscription. So if I said I wanted to watch the Miami Heat and Philadelphia 76ers, I could subscribe and watch, and I'm just kind of curious what the price is going to be. Here we go. Watching it live with a 7-day trial, I can do for $6.99 a month, or I can get the whole league pass, $14.99 a month after the trial. What's the difference there?
Yeah, the first
TV,
one is NBA TV League Pass. Yeah, NBA TV is the one channel, right, that always has one thing going on.
I got
League Pass is where you get access to lots of games. Yeah.
So they're not doing this. Looks like a season pass. It's really just a monthly subscription to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the deal with Amazon is you're going to get some free sports on there, but I think anything that people are really going to be looking for is going to be in some of these packages. So what else do we have? MLB TV, WNBA. Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the offerings there. So much like what we just said with Apple TV, I mean, Amazon's really good about adding interactivity to their movies and TV streaming. So I would hope and think that interactivity is going to be a part of a game with them on sports, meaning that you could get pop-up information about some different stats or information during the game on demand. Could be camera switching angles in the future, could be opportunities for that. Again, once you're in this streaming video environment, there is all those opportunities Brian was discussing that these services could tap into that you just can't do with a traditional ESPN channel over a channel-based live service.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, there's one more player there's two more players, but this one still I think is interesting. Although the more I think about it, I realize back in the 80s and 90s when growing up and HBO was kind of a service. I remember boxing was like a big sport that HBO had. They covered tons of boxing. Well, they are kind of back in the sports game a little bit now too. So they actually have sports. Right now it's women's soccer. They are providing women's soccer on HBO Max. So if you have a subscription to HBO Max, they do have that as an offering. If I were to go in and see, I could actually watch a pre-recorded match already, or if it was live, I'd be able to watch it live. Let's see. This one says, okay, so this is 6:30. So this is going to be going on 27 hours, I believe. Is that right? Am I seeing this right? Oh, no, this is happening right now. You guys can't see it because it won't let me show anything that's live streaming. But I right now is a live soccer match I was just watching that just pulled up on the screen for a second. So obviously it's live, but you got it on demand afterwards, just like these other services do. So they've got women's soccer going on with that, which is great. So you're starting to get the idea that if there's a particular sport you really want to just get full consumption with, you're going to have to kind of find where it's being offered and get probably a subscription to that service if you don't already have it. And it
Yeah.
may or may not involve an additional pass or subscription on top of that. Excuse me. But if you're not one of those people that is just needs that one primary sport that you want to consume all aspects of it, your channel-based live packaging is probably a better bet to go with if you're still interested in having sports options, right?
Yeah, and I think this is, this is the future. What you're seeing, I think, is that there's a lot of these services that are testing the waters by paying for the rights for, a maybe a lesser followed sport, because they can play around a little bit. They can assure that they can handle this sort of streaming option. They can assure that they can provide the quality that needs to be there, and whether their supporters really like the experience. And then they can decide, if they're going to move on to the big players, and of course the big players, which all have their own deals that are multi-million-dollar deals on these things, will then have lots of options of bidders. And I think that's going to be a really interesting piece is, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, when you have, the NFL that's trying to decide who they're going to be with for the next, 5-10 years. And they're going to have all these bidders come in to say, hey, well, Apple says they could do it. And, do we still want to go with CBS and, Fox? Do we want to go with ESPN? Who's going to make the big bid and potentially provide, the growth? I mean, you gotta also understand companies or organizations like NFL, NBA, they're becoming international, and they're pushing international, which means not beholden to local cable companies, but start to be in streaming services, which means they can provide it in many different places and in many different languages and all these options. So I just think there's, for people who really love to engage in, watching of a sport, this is an exciting time of what can happen. I understand that if you're someone that's disappointed in this, it probably means that you're comfortable with the way that you watch sports now, and you're saying don't mess with that. My argument would be that I think you can still have that experience. It may be more expensive when it comes down to it, but it also might be that it could expand the way that you watch those sports, potentially enhancing the league. So
let me just give an example. And I have up on the screen, by the way, Paramount Plus, which is one more service I forgot to mention, but does offer also some different sports packages. Their big thing is that, if you get Paramount Plus, they have access to the CBS related channels, which are the ones that carry the NCAA basketball tournament, the March Madness tournament.
Yep.
That's CBS, TNT, and
TBS.
TBS. So those would all be covered in a package. If you went with Paramount Plus as a streaming platform, you have access to the March Madness channels and some NFL games. Looks like a soccer league, a couple different soccer leagues, and even a golf, seeing the Masters tournament. So another option there. Brian, but here's the thing. I hear what you're saying, and yes, I agree. I think this is an exciting way for sports delivery to go. But I look at myself. Let's take me as an example. The only sport I really feverishly watch is NCAA college basketball. And yes, I am a fan more so of one particular conference, the ACC. So I will watch just about any ACC basketball game that's on. And of course, I have my team I watch religiously, but then any other team in the league I will still watch. If they came out and some of these other streaming services, an Apple, HBO, or a Paramount, anybody came up and said, we just bought the rights and we're going to be giving you NCAA basketball, okay, where you pay a subscription to us and you will have access to the whole NCAA experience. Okay, that's great. That is really, really good. Here's my caveat, though. I already had that with my YouTube TV. I'm not going to get rid of my YouTube TV, okay? But now you're saying I'm still paying the YouTube TV and I'm now paying this additional subscription to have what I already had before. That's where I think some of the rub with some sports fans are right now is that, well, they're not going to ditch what they were already watching things on because they watch other things on that, or they have that
Yep.
for other purposes. Now you're telling me to get what I was used to getting before, I'm now having to pay this other service. That's the only
Sure.
rub I see that's a challenge. Now, if it was a sport that, I was already having to pay a subscription to get somewhere, and you're telling me I just have to transfer that subscription to now one of these streaming services. Okay. I'm game for that. That's fine. I think it's the net gain in dollars is where
Yep.
there
Yep.
are some concerns. So,
Well, and I guess it all comes back to would you, what is it beyond the sports that you really like having with the YouTube TV? And would you then potentially look at another option other than YouTube TV for just the locals? I mean, there are some
possibly.
cheaper
Yeah.
things that say, here's my
Yeah.
local channels.
You're right.
I mean, getting a pair of bunny ears out again and just figuring out a way to
Well,
do just the local channels for a quality stream and
you're
then
right.
having your sports, right? Yeah.
I'd say 70% of the reason I've got YouTube TV is for live
Is sports.
sports, and
Yep.
95% of the live sports I watch are of this one league conference association.
Yep.
So you're right. If that was pulled out and made available through some other streaming channel, I would really have to debate whether I kept YouTube
Right.
TV around. You're
Yep.
right. You're right with
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at that point, it becomes a much, much tougher decision because there's just enough other live things, just
Yeah.
enough to justify keeping it around. But is it worth that $65, $70 if I'm also having to pay $15, $20 a month for this other offering? So it just,
Alan, can I just ask you real quick, other than sports,
Mhm.
what percentage of your TV watching is live?
Well, so live is a loose term there. So very little is what is deemed as true live TV. Really, if I'm not watching sports, the only thing that's playing on YouTube TV is I just consider it background filler stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm just around the house today and there's reruns of The Office on
Yep.
Comedy
Yep.
Central. I'm just going to leave that on and that's just on. So it's not really live. It's more like,
But that's the perfect point.
Yeah.
Is that I actually wonder when one of these services like Netflix or Amazon just has a
live.
we have you have check boxes by these things that you kind of like. We'll just randomly curate and throw some randoms
I don't
out there, right?
understand why they don't do that. I
Oh my
really
gosh.
don't.
Honestly, if for my wife and I, if you had The Office
Mhm.
and Friends,
Yep.
and all you did was play a random mix of those things, there's our live, right? I mean, of course, we have news, but news I can get digitally if I want.
Yeah.
I can also move towards, people always say the thing you might lose the Oscars or the things that come out once a year and all of the Super Bowl. But guess what? Those can also be chimed in on whatever service that you want to, participate in. Maybe it's a one-time deal. You pay $5 and you get to watch the
Yeah.
Oscars live, right?
Right. Well, if they
to me,
offer
there's
that.
not a bad deal, right?
If they ever offer that, that's the challenge is will these groups ever offer these things? If I want to watch the Academy Awards, which I do every year, I don't want to pay $70 for 1 month of YouTube TV to get it.
Just for it.
Or
Yep.
maybe I could find a $30, $40 a month for some live streaming package and watch it.
Right.
But the challenge is there. I mean, it should be ideally it's a standalone thing, or maybe like the ABC app that carries the Academy Awards allows you to do streaming of the ABC channel, and you pay $5 for a month and you get it. Anyway, it's it takes a little more mental energy to figure out what to do in these situations. But back to your comment about the live quote
Mhm.
customized, like kind of just ongoing channel. I've always questioned too, like I love that idea of like customizing your own playlist and say, just play this kind of content
Just
nonstop.
mix them up. Sure. Mhm.
But also I love the idea of just like on Apple Music, you have your radio stations. And there's a radio station, it's Apple One, which is a live radio station that you are getting through your streaming. And it's just if you just want to listen to a radio station and there's actually a DJ in between who's kind of introducing things. Why a Netflix or any of these other streaming services don't have kind of a curated live channel that's like, hey, look, if you just want some comedy, you want the comedy channel, and you just need stuff on in the background, or you just want to,
Yeah.
or you want to be watching the same thing that somebody else, a friend of yours, is watching at the same time. Here's our comedy channel. We're going to play this movie at 8 o'clock. We're going to play this movie at 10. And it's like, if you want to hop online and live tweet while you're watching it or chime in with people and watch it together, you can do that.
Yep.
And to me, it's like, that would be so easy to push out and have like, 8 or 10 of these little channels that just people can just kind of gravitate to if they're just
Yep.
not, if you're in that mode where you go to the main menu and you just go into like kind of a stupor where you just don't know what you're going to watch. Say, I just want to watch comedy. Okay, fine. Go to the comedy channel and just play. That's kind of
I
fun
love
too.
it.
So,
I love
I
it.
don't understand why they wouldn't do that.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's you've got the oldies channel, you got the comedy
Mhm.
channel, you've got the, old time horror channel, whatever. I think if they did that, right, the beauty is that, Alan, they could actually use that to further their own network. So let's say you're on Netflix, you're watching the comedy channel, and there's also menu buttons in the bottom that says, oh, this person who is on
Mhm.
this scene, you want to go watch their comedy series on
Yep.
Netflix. You're already
Mhm.
there. Click over here. Oh, I want to watch more of that guy. Or I want to see, that actor who's now playing in something else. They could do all sorts of cool stuff. But you're right. It gets rid of the absolute frustration of streaming services where you and your spouse sit down and say, let's watch some, I got about 30 minutes in me before I'm crashing out, let's just watch
Yep.
something. And
Yeah.
you spend 20 of that trying to find something that you think is appropriate.
Mhm.
YouTube TV for us is literally, we can always find The Office on somewhere. And
Yeah,
so
right.
part of it is that's where we go. Just show me The
Well,
Office, right?
and look, I'll tell you, so AMC, American Movie Classic, or
Mhm.
is still or no, I'm sorry, Turner Classic Movies. That's it,
Turner
TCM.
Classics. Yeah.
That's a cable channel. It is still a traditional cable channel. They're showing old movies all the time, but they do a great job in that they have a host in between the movies who may talk for a few minutes about the film, or at the end of it, give a little information about it before the next one queues up to play. I mean, you could totally replicate that on any of these streaming services. That
Oh,
same
yeah.
kind of idea of it's a curated list. It's live. People can follow along at the same time, but you also mix some personalities in there to kind of introduce or segue between the
Yep.
shows
Yep.
or the episodes or movies or whatever.
No, that would be
I don't know. It would just be
slick.
fun. If that happened in ACC tournament or NCAA basketball can get carved into its own service, I don't need YouTube TV anymore. I mean, I don't need
I'm with you.
to pay that $65 a month at all.
I'm with you.
So, yeah.
Well, and it would probably keep me with Netflix, which has still been on my outs lately, of like, that's the one
Mhm.
service that I've been on the border of saying I might want to get rid of, because it almost feels like there's too much there, and that I don't really take advantage of what's there. Whereas,
Yeah.
With Apple and things like that, I find myself knowing that there's not so much there, but it's good enough that I know I can find something. So
I've spent more time on the Netflix menu screens than
than
I've
actually
spent watching Netflix content.
Agreed. Yep.
Well, okay. Well, I know we got away from sports there at the end, but that's fine. So sports in general, again, this is where I am with it. I still need the variety of channels that a live streaming service provides, like YouTube TV. I still feel like YouTube TV is the right deal for me.
Yeah.
I get almost all of my sporting needs taken care of for me. But if I was a really deep NFL fan where I needed to see all those games, I would need something extra. Or if I was a huge MLS, Major League Soccer, obviously I would need something different, something bigger to get into it. Luckily, YouTube TV covers me just fine. And I think college basketball is one of those sports that just so happens to be covered really nicely by live streaming channels for the most part right now.
Yep.
Brian, is that you're similar?
I'm the same way, although, NBA has been challenging for me because I do like my Portland Trailblazers, and they seemingly the last several years have every year gone with a different company that is the only one that you can watch them on. So YouTube TV, even if it is a TNT game or something, actually, I don't think if it was an NBA game, an NBA TV game that was the Trailblazers, it would be blacked out for me, which is really, really frustrating. You have to have, I don't know, Root Sports or one of these others to do that. That's the downside, right? When you are invested in something and there really isn't an option for the only, like if there was a Trailblazer season pass that was through one of these major services to where I knew the streaming was really good, I would potentially do that. They did offer their own version, but it was in-house, not very good. The problem is that, until all sports kind of get their own place where you can buy the MLS, you can buy the NFL, you can buy the NBA, you can kind of pick and choose, say, those are my sports, and you now have access to the best content in all of them. It's in that tweener stage, which is kind of frustrating, when someone gets left behind. But you're right. I'm sticking with YouTube TV for now, but I am very intrigued to see, some of these different sports. If, like you said, if there was college sports, if college sports kind of became their own thing, college basketball, college football, maybe as options, and I knew I could, if I knew I could have the curated comedy on Netflix or one of those those channels, yeah, I'm with you. I would, I'd probably be jumping ship. So
yeah,
I am excited just for the technology side to see what they can do with sports, because the more competition in this thing, it is going to be an arms race to see who can provide the best sporting experience from home, and I'm excited to see it.
I am too. I think we're on the cusp of some really interesting things with sports broadcast. And we're kind of talking about it as we're starting to see some things shift and move a little bit in the playing space.
Yeah,
we're not there yet. I mean, nobody's got the perfect solution or setup for this yet, but these guys are trying. These different companies are trying to stabbing at some different options for us, and we'll be certainly watching to see over the next season or two kind of how that shapes up, and if there's some interesting opportunities when it comes to watching sports on your streaming services or streaming devices. So, Brian, I think we're good. I think we're wrapped up. We're done. I think we have exhausted our sports talk. We dabbled into our personal preferences when it comes to laughing with comedy on TV. You need laughing right now because you're still without a car because your keys are lost.
Just update. No, I have not found my keys since we started the episode.
Not in the last 45 minutes that we've been sitting in front of the microphone.
Nobody has contacted me, and I have not found them. So, just
Godspeed, Brian.
Thank you.
We know you'll find them.
Thank you.
We're all, the whole Brothers in Tech community is rooting for you.
Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
Please keep us posted. We expect a post of some sort to let us know that they've been found, or what your options are. In all seriousness, I hope it works out. I know that's frustrating.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Get that AirTag. Maybe I need to buy you an AirTag for your birthday.
I'm telling you, when AirTags came out, I thought, okay, that's, do they really need it? Do you really need to go beyond what a tile does? But given the pervasiveness of the iPhone devices that are out there, I think it's in my future. I think I'm going to be putting them all my keys and some of my, maybe even one in my car that just will help me to track if something goes wrong. So, that'll be coming soon.
One in your car. So in case your car gets stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, they're so easy to hide, right? Put one in your car, and that way. I mean, even when you're in a parking lot, right? If someone were to steal it, they're going to be so close to other iPhones that you should probably get a notification. And so, I think I'm in that scared phase right now where I'm like, okay, I'm going to put one on everything I own.
See, I thought about my work bag, my shoulder work bag that goes everywhere with me. That would be something that I thought at one point, do I need an AirTag in that? But then I realized my laptop is in it.
In there, usually. That's what you care about, right?
Yeah. That's what I care about. And obviously my MacBook Pro is set up with a Find My, built in. So I can find it anywhere. So I guess it's not as important for the bag. My keys would be an AirTag need for sure. I think the idea of putting in your car, that's not a bad idea.
The newer cars, right? If you have that phone capability, most likely it has its own tracking sort of thing to it. But for the old cars, I think
older cars, that
putting
may be
that
the
in
best
there
bet for you.
is an effective thing. I have a camera bag, that
Oh,
has my
yeah,
nice
that would
camera
be
in
one.
it. I drop one in, giving myself a little extra protection might be helpful. But
Sure.
anyway,
there we go, getting off track again. So we were about to wrap this thing up, and
mm.
we got back on your car situation. So, all right. Thanks everybody for watching or listening. And Brian, if anybody wants to follow up with us, talk with us, chat, anything at all, what should they do?
Yeah, send us an email. If you find my keys, send me an email at info@themesh.tv. Let us know what kind of, if you have some thoughts on sport streaming, maybe you have some experiences with some of these services that we don't. I'd love to share them.
Yeah.
Or if you have any ideas for future topics, you can also go to www.brothers-in-tech.com and find previous episodes and contact us that way.
Yep. Get a hold of us. We'd love to talk to you and get some ideas for other topics that we can explore. In the meantime, Brian and I will continue exploring the world of home technology and finding some new things to bring to your attention and new topics to discuss. We're always exploring, always venturing. Well, except for Brian. Brian's kind of homebound right now with no car. So I'm sorry, I really shouldn't be joking. I shouldn't be joking about this.
We are potentially talking about e-bikes, in the future, Alan. You and I talked about an episode, right? So maybe I'll talk about my...
Brian was rambling.
I'll stop.
Brian was rambling, so I clicked on the closing button too quickly. Sorry. What were you saying?
I was just saying I'm going to be on my bike for a bit, so e-bikes might be a nice topic to discuss soon. So
okay. No, I think it'd be great. Let's talk about just alternatives to your car if your car is not available anymore. So, all right. In all seriousness, Brian, good luck to you. And thanks everybody for watching or listening. We will talk to you next time. And
bye-bye.